Hi everyone, my name is Christine here with Oxygen Farm Quilts, and I would like to thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to be creating a quilt using these beautiful ocean color blue and aqua batik fabrics, and I'm going to be using black as my background. So here we go. Here is a sample block of what I am going to be creating today. I love to make sample blocks before I cut into my good fabrics. So with this one, you will see there is a large half square triangle here, and then there are small half square triangles here. So in this video, I am going to be creating my half square triangles using strip tubes. So they are in different sizes, and so let me show you how I do that. So let me talk to you real quick about why I like to make sample blocks before I cut into my good fabric. I am more of a visual type of learner when it comes to quilting and just about everything else. But in my sewing, I have a tendency to have a pretty hefty 1/4 inch seam allowance. So if I read a pattern, their measurements may come out different than mine. So I prefer to take fabrics that, you know, I wouldn't use in a quilt or any other project. These work great for repurposing those old fabrics that we don't like. So, and I can go ahead and do some example pieces on there. Once I have what works for me, then I go ahead and I take a marker and I write on there all the details in what it took for me to create this particular strip set. And so when I created this block, what I will do is I will take these two that already have my notes on it. I'll put the name of this quilt block on it, and I will pin it together. And then this is all ready for me if I make this pattern again. So that works really helpful. And that is the reason why I love to make sample quilt blocks before cutting into my good fabric. Okay, here are the strips that I have cut. I have a 2.5 inch strip cut in my black, which is my background, and a 2.5 inch strip cut in my aqua color. Well, that's actually blue, but yeah, in my aqua color. And then I have a 4.5 inch strip in my background and that same blue. I have put black thread in my sewing machine, and what I'm going to do, open these up. Go line them up there. And what I'm going to do is I am going to sew a 1/4 inch down one side of this entire strip set, flip it around, and sew down the other side of this strip set. And then I will do the same for this grouping. When sewing these strip sets, I am just lining them up, smoothing them out. I'm not going to pull or tug on them. I'm just going to let my feed dogs do the work for me. I also have painter's tape that I keep on my table, and that helps keep me straight going all the way down here. Plus, I also like to keep this hand here to help so that my strip doesn't wave around like that. Okay, so I have my strip sewn. This is my 2.5 inch strip and my 4.5 inch strip. My 2.5 inch strip, I'm gonna cut these into 3 inch half square triangles, and my 4.5 inch strip is going to be cut into 5.5 inch half square triangles. Now I'm going to be able to get a lot of half square triangles out of these strips. And so as I'm cutting them, I'm going to use this ruler to cut my 5.5 inch ones. And what I'm going to do is I am using painter's tape to mark 5.5 inch right where the 5.5 inch line is. It'll be a lot easier for me in just as I go back and forth in cutting these. And then I will do the same thing for this small one because I need to cut 3 inch half square triangles. I know if I don't do this, then I will start cutting at 2.5 inches because it's a 2.5 inch strip. It's just how my mind works. So this is a great tip. Use your painter's tape, keeps you straight so you don't cut everything wrong. Okay, so for my 3 inch one, when I put it on there, I am not covering the 3 inch line. I'm just putting it next to it as an indicator for me to remember that's the size I need. So I'm just writing 3 inch. And then on this one, I need 5.5 inch half square triangle. So I'm writing 5.5 inch on here. So let me just take these off. Rip them off there. I'm just putting it next to the 3, so I can still see the line on the 3. The same way over here on the 5.5. So let me show you how I cut these half square triangles. For cutting my half square triangles, I am placing the number 3 mark on my ruler on my black stitching line, because remember I used black thread. So I'm putting a 3 over here and 3 over here. You will notice that here is my stitching line on the other side. There's probably like 2 stitches over there. I'm not worried about that. Cut that way. And then I'm cutting that way. Those few stitches, I just get my nail in there, they just pop right off. And looky. There is a beautiful half square triangle. I will cut off my corners there, which when I cut another one, I'll show you how I cut off my corners. Sometimes they'll already be cut off for you when you do this method. Here's another one. Gonna open that up. There's just 1, 2, 3 stitches right there. They pop right open. And let me show you. What I love about this method is it's super fast. And there is no squaring up your half square triangles. You cut them once and they're done. See that? 3 inches. Right on the diagonal line. I have this little bit here, which is that, just that corner I didn't get cut off. There you go. Perfect. So I did it this way. So now I just flip my ruler over. I'm lining the tip of that 3 inch is right on the black stitching line. Cut this way. Flip it back over. See, here is one where it's kind of cut off already, but it doesn't take much just to cut off these little flappy things. So I just go back and forth and back and forth. So I'll do this strip, I believe, let's see, in my little samples I believe I should get about 18 half square triangles per width of fabric strip, depending on the width of fabric, but I think about 18. And then for This one I should get about 10. This one I'm cutting at 5.5 inches. So for cutting off the little flappies here, I just go like that. I don't worry about being too particular about it. I just want to get them off of there. Okay, these are my little end pieces, so not much waste at all. Let's see how many I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yep, 18. Okay, let's do the next size half square triangle. So I have 4.5 inch strips here, and I need to cut them at 5.5 inches. So I have my little 5.5 inch painter's tape on there. So I'm lining my 5.5 inch right there on that part of the line, making sure I'm not getting the selvage in there, but I am going as close as possible. And then I'm marking it on this side over here. One cut this way, and this one does not go into the stitch line, this particular size. I did experiment with this one here. I did, let's see, a 5.5, I did a 4 inch, I did a 5 inch. I did a couple different examples on my sample ones here. And so this will be nice if I need half square triangles for other sizes for other projects. I know if I do a strip tube, and I made my notes that, you know, this particular inch will make this size HST and so on. So that does come in really helpful. So this one, I don't have any stitches to pull apart. I'm just finger pressing here. Let me cut my little points off here. Sometimes I use my rotary cutter. Sometimes I just take scissors to cut those off. They don't need to, but it just kind of prevents bulk. My long arm likes it when there's not as much bulk. So there we go. Let's go ahead and put the 5.5 inch line on there. Look at that. Beautiful. Again, did I say no squaring up? Okay, I have all of my 5.5 inch half square triangles cut, and let's see how many I got out of that strip set. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 5.5 inch half square triangles out of this 4.5 inch strip. So like with this one, my sample ones, I am writing down how many I got out of there, out of that strip set on that size. So I have that for future reference. So 10 HSTs per strip. Now there is something else I noticed on here. So let's see, I need that size. So these were my 2 end pieces here. So if I open these, I want to make sure to use as much fabric as I can. So I think I'll be able to get 3 inch half square triangles out of each of the end pieces. Yep. Okay, so there's 1, and I will definitely be saving that for crumb sewing. So there's another one I can add Let's see if I can get one out of this side. I think I can. I'm going a little bit into the end there, but it'll be buried in a seam, so I'm going to give this fabric purpose, so I'm going to use it. Oh yeah, the selvage, you can't even see that. I do need to trim this side. Sweet. Bonus. My first step for making my larger block is to make my small pinwheel block. Now let me talk to you a little bit about making pinwheels. If you are new to quilting or you've never made a pinwheel block, let me show you something here. So you need 4 half square triangles to make a pinwheel. So let me show you some. Let's see. Notice the 45-degree angle is always going inward. Okay, now let me show you something just a little bit different. When I first started quilting, I didn't pay attention to how I was spinning my pinwheel, and when I would get done, I was like, it just looks so weird. So you may not be able to notice this right away, but take a look at just the blue fabrics, okay? So if you look at the blue fabrics, this one is on top on this pinwheel. If you look over here, the black is on top and the blue is on the bottom. So it gives the look as if they are spinning different ways. So this looks like it's spinning like this, and this one to me looks like it's spinning like this. The thing to remember about pinwheels in whatever project you are making is to decide which way you are going to be making your pinwheels, whether your color is on the top or your background is on the top, and stick with that every time you make a pinwheel. It helps so much so you don't get them mixed up. So I always go with the color on the top. So it would be on this side for you guys. So color on the top, that's what I do every single time. Whether I have a black background, a white background, a gray background, it doesn't matter. So for me, I need to switch these around so that my pinwheels are always spinning in the same direction. And so for sewing pinwheels together, you just put them together like a fork patch. Put that one over there and that one over there, and I'll take this to my machine. Okay, so to make my larger block, I have my 2 pinwheel blocks and my 2 half-inch square triangle blocks. So my color goes up, that goes there, this pinwheel here, and that half square triangle like that. So on the half square triangles, the color is always going to go on the same side towards a pinwheel, and then the background fabric will go on the same side towards the other pinwheel. And then I will just sew this together like a fork patch. That one over there. I do have a junction here where my half square triangles meet. When I am nesting seams, I prefer to have the top fabric go towards my needle and the bottom fabric towards me. As my feed dogs are pulling that bottom fabric through, it really makes a good nesting seam at that junction. I'm going to flip it over, and then I have my sample block that I keep by me, you know, right here in my vision of my sewing machine, so I can always look at that because I know that one's right, and I can look at that and say, yep, we're correct. Let me show you what I'm doing here. As I'm coming to this nesting junction here, the thread is still there from chain piecing. I do like to go ahead and cut that sometimes so I can make my seams go the way that I want them to go. Like I said, I love it when my bottom seam goes towards me and my top seam goes that way, because my feed dogs pull the bottom fabric in faster, and so when it does that, it helps butt up against that top seam. Line it up again. Take this over and iron it. Okay, whenever I iron my blocks, I just iron them to heat up the fabrics so it makes them nice and floppy. And then I flop them open. I open them up and I just iron them to make sure I don't have any pleats or puckers in there. I am not concerned on what the block looks like on the back. That doesn't matter to me. I just want it to look good on the front. God, these colors are beautiful. I'm a big fan of using painter's tape in my sewing room. So in my other videos, you'll see that I have the green painter's tape that is lined up with my 1/4 inch foot, and I have this blue painter's tape over here that's lined up with my needle. Now you'll see that I have this blue painter's tape over here. It is on the edge of where my 1/4 inch foot, so what I have done is I have built a ledge with my painter's tape, so it's pretty thick there. So what works great for sewing these strips together is I can just smooth out my strip set. I'm not pulling on it. I just smooth it out to make sure I don't have any bumps. And then I just leave my left hand over here, and I can have my right hand right here bump up against this ledge of the painter's tape. And it really helps me go pretty fast and pretty accurate. What I love about using this ledge, and especially painter's tape, because it does not leave any residue when I go to pull this off. But I'm going to show you in real time, but without having the noise of the sewing machine, that when I am going down and sewing the other side of my strip here, this side is already lined up and secure, so I can sew this strip super fast. Like I said, I'm not going to do time lapse, but I am going to mute the video so you don't have the noise of the sewing machine. So here we go. Okay, I've grabbed 4 of my finished blocks, and they finish at about 10.5 inches. And so let me show you how I am going to put the blocks together. So here I have all of the color fabrics in the center, and then when the quilt expands, the secondary pattern is going to look like this. So with this way, you get the black background. I hope you have enjoyed this Pintastic Pinwheels Quilt tutorial. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.